Hello everyone, especially for cadet, for novice sailor or novice seafarer or ratings level or sporting level, junior and senior engineers. Glad I got to see you again for the second time with Lilin Tua. Yes, some people translate Lilin Tua as old candles, but it's my brand Lilin Tua. Although correct that in English Lilin Tua is mean old candles. Well, I hope you are in good health and full of enthusiasm to move forward. Today's session is to continue the explanation of the heat exchanger part 1 that I have delivered several days ago. In part 2, in this part, I will try to discuss one of 4 types: heater, evaporator, cooler, and condenser, namely heater. Before I start going into the discussion about part 2, I would like to give you a little reflection on important thing that I have explained in part 1. So I want to ask you a little repetition about what I have explained to you in part 1. Heat exchanger. Yes, I have explained in part 1 heat exchangers. As I described at the first session, heat exchanger, which are where the heat exchange process occurs from the processing media to the processed media, can be classified into 2 main groups. Yes, heat exchanger can classify into 2 main groups. This group is called heat exchanger that give heat or providing heat, and heat exchanger that taking heat. Well, heat exchanger to provide heat are then reviewed from the impact of providing heat, can also be classified again into 2 groups. Yes, into 2 groups. Well, namely heat exchanger that provide heat without changing the physical form of the medium that is given heat. It is even heat. Heat is given to processed medium only for increasing the temperature without changing its shape form. And this event is called a sensible heat event. And the heat exchanger that provided heat by changing the physical form of the media that is given heat, it is even heat that is given to processed medium only to change shape without increasing its temperature, and this event is called a latent heat transfer event. Well, from the event that application of sensible heat result in evenly heating. So, the name if heat exchanger is heater. Okay. A heat exchanger that gives heat by changing its shape is a heat exchanger whose heat is not given to increase the temperature of medium given heat, but to change the physical form from a liquid into a vapor or gas form. This event is called latent heat transfer. Furthermore, the event produces as events that called evaporation. Therefore, the existing heat exchanger is called evaporator. So we know now heater and evaporator. Now we consider the second group of heat exchanger, namely heat exchanger that pick up heat. The heat exchanger to take heat. As is the case with heat exchanger that provide heat, this group 2 is termed of impact of taking heat into the medium from which the heat is taken, can be divided into two types, namely, it's the same like giving heat, namely, heat exchanger to take heat without changing shapes, and heat exchanger that take heat accompanied by changing in physical shape. For the heat exchanger that take heat without changing its shape, it's produced a sensible heat exchange event. Its heating is given not to change the shape of medium that taken the heat, but only lower the temperature of the medium from which the heat is taken. Not for change the shape, but only for lower the temperature of the medium from which the heat is taken. The event of taking heat in this way produces a cooling process, so the heat exchanger in this case is called cooler. For the heat exchanger that takes heat accompanied by a change in physical shape, its result a latent heat exchange event, where the heat is given to the medium that takes the heat, not to lower the temperature, but changing the physical form of gas or vapor to liquid. The process is called condensation process, and the heat exchanger is called condenser. Okay, condensation process. For heat exchanger that takes heat accompanied by a change in physical shape, it results in a latent heat exchange event. A latent heat exchange event, where the heat is given to the medium that takes the heat is not for lower the temperature, but change the physical form as gas or vapor into liquid, which the process is called condensation. The heat exchanger is called condenser. Furthermore, there are two events or processes that are continued sequentially, starting from evaporation event, followed by the condensation event, yes, and produce an event that called distillation. And so the equipment is called distiller. Okay, it's called distiller. Now we are going into the material heat exchanger that's called heater. Yes, heater. It is a material for this part 2. And according with the understanding we discussed earlier, the heater is a heat exchanger that provided heat to the processed media without changing its shape, so that we also know that the heat that used is called sensible heat. In terms of construction, heater can be divided into several types. At least including bare tube, shell and tube, shell and coil, and plate type. Bare tube, we can find it. Usually we know or we find in tank, even double bottom tank, or fuel oil tank, or heating tank, or etc. Use bare tube. And then shell and tube, we can divide by two kind. First is shell and U tube, and shell with straight tube. Then shell and coil, that is not straight tube and not U tube, but coil. Shell, that is the house is shell, and tube is from spiral or coil form. And then the last is plate type. Okay, let's go to the next page. This picture shows us the heater position for the fuel system. Fuel oil diagram. Fuel oil system. Starting from the double bottom fuel oil double bottom tank until or up to heater of the fuel viscosity regulation installation before entering to high pressure pump, high fuel oil, high pressure pump. We can find many some type of heater. For example, we find bare tube in double bottom tank. We can find bare tube in settling tank, as well as a daily tank or service tank. And maybe we can find the heater cell and tube, cell and coil, or maybe plate type in other. For example, in purifying installation, or in viscosity regulation installation. We find this this kind of heater. Well, and then next you can find or you can look at the settling tank. The following is a picture of a settling tank with mandatory appendices that must be met, one of which is a fuel heater of the bare tube type, in addition to other mandatory equipment like side glass, like ventilation, like flame trap, like a drain cock, etc., etc. Now, we also showed about other type of heater. This is other type of heater for lubricating oil system. When the ship is operating, ship is run, where the lubricating oil is cleansed from dirt, mud, and water using purifying system, then in the purifying system, we encounter a heater for adjust the correct what name interface position, out or inner. If out, it is mean must be heating for make a good position of interface, and if moving inside is means is too hot, so we must reduce the heating, so the interface will be moved to outside. Well, when the ship is stopped for a long time, the lubricating oil in the sump tank is pumped into a high tank or heating tank to maintain its temperature in the heating tank. In the heating tank, we find a heater, bare tube type. What we see and in purifying installation, this type of heater sometime or mostly saline tube, and maybe now mostly plate type. Next page is the picture, or is that show us what we see now is shell and a U-tube fuel heater. Shell is the housing, U-tube, it is not straight tube, not a coil tube, but U-tube. Spirit by the bevel. The heater consists of a cold fuel line that enters from the lower inlet line, and then the pump pressure flows outside the U heating pipe, which is directed by a bevel, which then, after receiving heat through the wall of the U-tube, exits through the outlet and then flow through the channel monitor channel. In the monitor channel, a thermometer, manometer, pressure records is manometer, temperature indicator is thermometer, air cock, and then it is installed here. The most important thing in this monitor channel, we can find the sensor of temperature are installed. Yeah, the temperature sensor sends the temperature condition to the thermostat, and then thermostat comparing this condition with the set point. The thermostat controls the temperature value by adjusting the amount of heating steam into the heater. And next is plate type. This type now we can, most of modern ship now use heat exchanger or heater using plate type model or plate type plate type. Yeah, this plate type heat exchanger consists of two main cover, fixed cover and movable cover. Yeah, using for tiny. Between the two cover is a row of plates, many plates, several plates of the same shape is arranged, and between each plate is separated by the gasket. After being pressed by the two main cover using tightening hold, the arrangement of the plates is tightly packed. Each plate has the same 4 hole as the cover. For the cover, fixed cover have a 4 hole, and each plate is also have 4 hole. Consists of 2 pair of hole for 2 kind of media. Processing media line and processed media line. Due to the shape of gasket in the structure way, the 2 type of media flow in different gaps. Well, the advantage of plate type heat exchanger is at the same capacity than other types, more space saving. In the same capacity, more space saving compared to the other type. Easy to maintenance because we only off the tightening pull, stay and pull, and then make the movable cover and then clean. And the capacity can be adjusted by increasing or decreasing the number of plates. Okay. And now, the last of what I can discuss today, shell and tube heater type. Shell and tube, this tube is straight, not U-tube or not coil tube, but straight. Is there we can find the component that called bevel. the function of bevel. First is strengthen the bundle of pipe. Many pipe, then make strengthen. And then the second, enlarge the heat transfer area. And the last is directing to flow of fuel oil so that there is uneven distribution of heat. So there are two kinds of bevel, disc bevel and ring bevel. Well, my lovely cadet, my lovely engineer, even instructor, that is my explanation about the heat exchanger part 2, about heater in the form of heater. And hoping for discussion at the next session is about evaporator. So, thank you very much. Good luck to all.